Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Trading Crypto today. So we're going to have a look. Now, let me know, again, as always, if you can hear me. I'm in an Airbnb at the moment, so that's not always the case. So if you're watching, please let me know. Just comment, yep, thumbs up or something in the comments, and that would be great. Because I don't want to get through 10 minutes again and you guys are all going, hey, I can't hear you. So hopefully you can hear me. And it's been a pretty quiet week. But I think we're going to see some movement over the next couple of weeks, which is going to be nice. Whether that's, good or bad movement, I think we're coming to a bottom. Whether that's a temporary bottom or a reversal at this point, we don't know. So let us jump in. So, it's good that the sound's good. So, yeah. Hey, Sadi, and hey, KJS. So, yeah, let's jump in. And my screen gets a bit weird here for a while because I'm just on my laptop, and I will jump to the charts. Hang on, wrong screen. This screen, I think, yes. And then we get this one. All right, cool. Now, I'm going to start with higher time frames and drop down because this is important. The weekly has come in and we've got a smaller candle. So this is just a hammer, and we've got, a long doji here. It's not essentially a doji because we've got a longer body, but it's the long wick tells us that this is starting to reverse. Whether we get another short term like we saw here where we've got long body and long wick, but here we've got a condensed body and a longer wick, but we're getting shorter candles here again. So that usually means we're getting an uptrend for a little bit to retest. We're getting a bit of momentum upwards. That can sometimes change as news starts to flow. So because rule of alternation with Elliott wave says it doesn't go down forever, obviously, but we're seeing, quite a few sort of downturn momentum. Sorry, it's really early in the morning here. So I've only just woke up. So basically, I think we've still got maybe one more wave down. We've got the 200 SMA below us, so that's another good sign. We are starting to see a little bit of sell pressure happening on the MACD, so that's another good sign. Now we're just going to probably trend in this region. What we want to see, and I'm going to go up to onto the daily chart. So what we want to see is a retest of this resistance, which is sitting at about 81,000, possibly potentially breaking through and heading to the 100 SMA on the daily. So, and that's sitting at about 86,700. So 86 to 87. So that's the region we want to really, really hit. When we're looking at the daily, we've got a change of momentum. We can see that the MACD is starting to cross, and we've got sell pressure really, really easing on this chart. So when we go up to the weekly, we can see that starting to ease, which means this is coming through the time frame. So we're at the daily time frame at the moment with this ease, and then slowly starting to see that on the weekly. So that is a momentum change happening in real time. We can see that we've got hidden bearish divergence. We may or may not have one more wave. There is enough waves. Sometimes we get a little bit of an extension. So at this present time, we've got either a pullback or sideways happening just due to the stock is quite high. But how this pattern potentially looks is, we do have a completed ABC, we have enough waves, we have enough momentum, but if we've got one more, it'll just break down just a touch. We don't really want it to go much lower than, definitely not much lower than the sort of 59.60-ish. I don't think we're, I keep saying I don't think we're going down there, but, stranger things happen. When we're looking at this as an individual wave, we've hit a fib and the 0.88. So that's really like consistent with we can reverse at this point. So when we go to overall wave structure and the corrective wave, possibly we're coming back down to this 618 area. So, depending on where we are in structure. So I've seen several different counts on how this is counted. Now, if we've got this happening in a different format, like I've shared a couple of different counts in the groups and in a GSIC about 2 months ago, so I might refresh those so that you guys have them. But basically, depending on how this is counted and how we are moving, like Elliott wave wise, then that depends on where these fib levels are sitting. So, if this is just a third wave here and we're in a fourth wave at the moment, all we do is we need to hold that 34, sort of 35K mark, and then we go into a fifth wave. So, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves in that region. So we can count a truncated wave in here, and the other person that's in my signals group has counted it that way. So, this is a potential option. So with that being said, 56, we might have one more wave down to that golden zone and then a bounce higher. So a couple of different ways of counting this pattern at the moment. None of them are wrong, because there's a couple of really truncated waves in there, which makes it quite difficult for anyone and any pattern to sort of recognize, if that makes sense. So we have had some bounces on the RSI, so that is showing that we are coming down to that momentum change. So when I do look at it from this perspective, though, it does look like it's got one more wave down. So potentially we want to retest that 87, and then we will be heading back down to sort of 56, 53. So that is the worst case scenario. Well, worst case scenario is we can come all the way back down to this wave 1. So this is 32K. So, that's not the worst thing that can happen, because we're going to get, hopefully you guys are in USDT, and hopefully we're going to be buying cheap Bitcoin. But, a couple of points along the way where we've got the 786, which is at about 39K. So lots of different scenarios happening at the moment, and lots of indecision here, and it's very slow moving. So when we're slow moving, that means we're still in a bearish momentum. Bullish momentum usually moves a lot faster. So going back to this weekly chart, this is easing sell pressure. So even if it's really slow at the moment, we can see, that support of that 200 MA has come up and is sitting there. So 3-day looks to be forming some sort of flag. This could be a bear flag. So this is a good sign of a short-term reversal, this pattern here. So again, we want to be hitting that sort of 85 to 86, 87,000 K, and that sort of goes, okay, this is the pattern. If we get a strong reversal at that point, then we're probably coming back to that 618. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So on this 3-day chart, the 200 SMA is sitting at about 91. So that's another potential as well. So when we look through those time frames at where these indicators are sitting, that's where our major resistance is. So daily, we've got 84 to sort of 87. That would be the target range that I think we'll be looking at on the daily. So once we get across of the 9 and the 21 EMA, then we go through the levels. So if you head to YouTube, I've got a video on what I'm talking about with these indicators. So 9 and 21 EMA using on that chart, I use the 100 and the 200 SMA. On this one, I've got an extra one of 50, which just helps in momentum tracking. So we can see on the daily that we have got a momentum change at the moment, even if it's just sideways. So, but that doesn't mean that once this cross, the algorithms don't just push off and off we go. So that is what we're waiting on. I think on the 12-hour, when I was looking earlier, we're starting to see that. So we're starting to see that congestion forming. The 50 is sitting at that resistance at 77. So that's another strong indicator that we are likely going to be retesting that 77 mark very, very soon. So for me, BTC this week we've got a minor correction at the moment, and then I think we're heading up. So that doesn't mean we're necessarily finished this pattern though. It will depend on whether we break that 86, 87 mark. If we start to break those upper pivots, now these are really important pivots, they're in orange. My normal regular pivots are in blue. So when we start to break that sort of 79 and that 87 mark, that's when we've got a momentum change on the way. So, and that's why when we potentially are heading up for that next wave. So that's kind of what we want to be watching. At the moment, we're sitting in that sort of no man's land when we're doing just small bounce trades. Over the weekend, we had a really good weekend where we had, quite a few trades hitting multiple targets. So Pepe, Bonk, FET, and SLP. So looking at the USDT dominance, we're still within this really dangerous zone where this is turning ugly. So we don't want it to get up to this zone. So I'm going to actually turn this one orange. And this one, maybe, let's go a lighter orange. So just in terms of resistance and in pacing as to how dangerous this is getting within the market, where we're going, okay, this is now we're kind of sitting in this region where BTC's maybe got one more wave down because we haven't hit this upper range yet. So, I'd like to see this come down and retest. I said this last week, it hasn't happened yet. Come retest this region, and then potentially if BTC has got one more wave down, this is what it would look like: a retest down here, a bit of a bounce, and then up at this region, and then that's when we want it to die. Breaking through here, we're seeing BTC heading down to that sort of 40K mark. So, and that wave one high, and that's ideally not where we want it to go. So, that is around that 786. So, that wave one here is sitting at 34K. So, 786 is sitting at about 38K. So that would be where the USDT dominance is taking us at that point. So another thing to watch is the VIX has got some movement at the moment. We've got a bit of green on the VIX, so that can cause a bit of uncertainty in the market as well. A lot of people watch this for momentum. It's sort of telling us what's happening with the S&P 500 index and, where that's going. So at the moment, that's obviously in a pullback. Most of the markets are in pullbacks or sideways. So this is showing that is starting to worry a few people, and we've got some momentum happening on this. So that is something to watch. So if, Trump's narrative around, tariffs or war or whatever he decides to, throw into the mix, starts to really gain traction, this is going to really take off, and the markets are going to keep going down. So just if you are long on anything at the moment, make sure you've got tight stop losses, because there's a strong possibility that this could happen and this could turn around. So we want you to preserve your capital and have enough money that you've got enough to buy the bottom and those strong bounces. So BTC dominance still sideways, so nothing to worry about here. Still, strong momentum there, so that's fine. DXY has had a bit of a bounce. It's still in a fairly sideways pattern. So at this point, 98.5 is probably where we need to be watching, but I still do think we're coming down on that one. Oil is still mid pattern, so we're still sitting in between this. So oil's a really strong indicator of war. So at the moment, there's still a lot of indecision. There's still a lot of negotiation going around with a lot of the issues that we have seen over the last 6 months. So, I don't want to say so much about the Epstein stuff, because I think it's vile and disgusting. But, there's a strong fallout happening of that at the moment. So that is going to see a lot of changes in governments, a lot of changes like internationally, everywhere, a lot of big people falling out of favor. So, and we don't always know who people are until, hindsight comes and sees it. So, but these people were, how would we say this politely on camera, behaving in a way that was not congruent with how society behaves as a whole. So that's the easiest way I can say it. So, not just this was a social event, this was disgusting. So there's going to be a lot more fallout as a lot more of that comes out. We've got a lot out at the moment, and, a lot of political upheaval and that happening. So I think there's a little bit more, or maybe a lot more of that to happen. So just keep an eye on that. Ethereum BTC chart is saying that Ethereum is gaining traction. Now we should see this move up to about 295 region, which is a retest of this resistance here before another drop. I do think we're going to go down quite a bit lower for ETH and sit here at about the 2.7 mark. That takes the USDT pair potentially down to about 1,500. So if we're looking at BTC and ETH in correlating patterns, which normally they are, sometimes one's slower than the other, we're getting a bounce here. First pivot on ETH is 2,080 to say 2,100. And then we've got the 200 SMA sitting at about 2,450, 2,500-ish. And then heading up, we've got that major pivot at about 2,787. So, about 2,800-ish, depending on what exchange you're on. Now, like BTC, we're seeing a momentum change. MACD is showing that. Stock RSI has shown that, and the RSI has shown that. So I had a signal flash on the weekend from my indicators saying that we have an ETH daily buy. So if we drop this down Here, so minor pullback happening, but we do have momentum change across these indicators, which means once this 9 and 21 cross, those algos, like we saw when I was talking about BTC, will pick up those orders, and then we will get some momentum change, likely up to this 50 and 100. So that's they are sitting around these pivots as well. So those pivots look likely to be tested. So dropping down again to the 12-hour chart, we can see that we're just about to change momentum here. We've got a bit of sideways indecision at the moment, but once that does cross, that is when we get those strong momentum changes. And we can see that the 100 and the 200 are sitting at that pivot zone as well. So to me, that means that we're going to get those, whether it's, immediately in the next day or so. I think we're going to get a good news run cycle over the next probably week. We'll get a momentum change, and then we'll get some bad news come in, and that will take us back down again. So it's been sort of one of those things where we're just sort of going, okay, what's going on here? What's the market doing? And yeah, that's kind of what it is. And I'm kind of not holidaying, but I am holidaying, if that makes sense. I'm just looking at the comments. So I came here for WEX or WEX. So I get told that I call it WEX, but apparently it's WEX. So and we're brought to you by WEX as well. So if you want to register, please use my code, VIP code LNOY, to register. And of course, you can go to Getting Started in Crypto and get your free scalp signals. I'm in the UK at the moment. I've been looking around, just walking in forests. It's been lovely. So but I was here for WEX and for their events and their AI wars, AI trading wars. So that has been what is happening. I hope that helps. And of course, I will be here and on X. I always got to call it Twitter. But yeah, this was my Valentine's Day. I painted my nails 5 different colors. So I had a burger. So happy Valentine's Day for those who celebrated. And I will be back in Melbourne for the next wrap up, or the next Trading Crypto this week. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye.